You know, I did, once you get the details of this Vegas thing and you start hearing people's stories, it gets very fucking sad and real.
Yeah, it's kind of a pile-on situation at this point with all these storms and death and destruction and then murder and then...
The moron in chief.
Like the Tom Petty thing was like, really? Another fucking thing?
Yeah. Now, you're an older fella. I mean, you've got many years ahead.
Easy.
But,
easy.
But are you feeling this ramping up of tragedy, disaster, uncertainty? Do you feel? I mean, when you look back and you say, I've lived through lots of different periods of history, lots of different eras.
When we got into the Korean War, I thought, this is madness.
This is madness.
No. Stuff is starting to pile up for sure. This gun thing, though, is like, it feels like a collective mental illness. Like the fact that we're under this illusion that we live in a representational democracy, and then you look at the numbers of people that are against guns and against, or in favor of basic regulations like keeping mentally ill people from getting guns.
Yeah.
You realize, we're not. It's actually not such a representational democracy right now. And I think with the gun thing, and I think also with the piling on of the natural disaster thing, we've gotten to a point where we're taking on this warlike mentality. Maybe because we're in a constant state of war, literally still at war. But, this feeling I didn't get shot today. The people right around me are okay. So it's like that kind of survivor thing that soldiers have. I feel bad for you, but I'm still alive, so it doesn't really apply to me.
Well, I had my wife told me that a woman, my daughter's best friend at school, his mom, her cousin was at the concert, and she said that she had people to the left and to the right of her hit. Assuming dying. So that's, the more this shit happens, the more this creeps into your real life, into your real, oh fuck, I know somebody that knows somebody that was that got shot next to. So it feels like it keeps creeping in. The fucking guns, man. I mean, you're from the Midwest. You've got you're in Michigan a lot. But I can't relate to these people that get excited about having these guns. I can't.
Well, I have a lot of guns. And the main thing is they're just fun.
They're just fun. It's fun to shoot cans.
It's insane. And now we get this little fucking. A part of me wants to believe the needle's moving a little bit. After that Newtown thing, when the needle didn't move after that, I thought we're doomed.
Yeah.
We're doomed. If you can't relate to children being massacred, what are we talking about? But now they're saying the one little crumb we're getting is that, okay, we'll get rid of these bump stocks. Maybe I'm in favor of making bump stocks illegal, the thing that made the weapons automatic.
Right. Well, here was my idea
I suppose that's movement, but it's so pathetic because those same people that are saying, maybe we shouldn't have bump stocks, will defend the right to have an AK-47. Here's what I think about this gun thing, and maybe I've said this to you before. There's this illusion that people are under, this delusion that a lot of gun owners, or at least Second Amendment, people who are obsessed with the Second Amendment and this right to own guns. There is this idea that, the reason our forefathers put that into the Constitution is because we need to be able to defend ourselves against the government if it comes to that.
Right.
And we need to have the same weapons as the government has so we can defend ourselves against the government. Well, guess what? Why don't you just go ahead and try that? Because I'm a real patriotic person. I believe in our military. If you think even having 17 high-powered rifles is going to protect you against the U.S. military, good luck with that.
Yeah.
Because you're
tanks.
It's completely deluded to think that you would be able to defend yourself against the Army, no matter how many weapons you got. Right?
And John, there's even arguments about if that was the intention. I was reading something the other day so some people think that the intention of that amendment was to avoid the cost of a national army. so that, and to preserve the idea of federalism, so that there was the right for states to assemble militias and to keep and to organize
the National Guard. We've got the
right, and to organize without there needing to be a federal cost of having a standing army. Now, of course, that just
How would you feel about that?
Well,
how would you feel about your family being protected by a bunch of guys who just happen to own guns?
Right. Well, the world dramatically changed since that was written. So we had, the advent of transportation technology that made the world a much smaller place, and certain little events like World War I created the United States military as we know it today to be this world dominating power that's completely out of control. But none of that, there was most people throughout the 20th century accepted that version of the amendment. It was only recently that it became, the NRA decided that it was going to become a tool to essentially sell more guns, right? To create a massive industry where there might not have been one, because these are expensive weapons. They cost a lot of money to buy, the ammo, all the gear that goes along with it. It's a big industry, just like anything else.
Yeah, it's like having cigarette companies in charge of healthcare. What do you think they're going to do? Right. They're going to keep making money. They're
going to milk it for all it's worth.
And this is going to sound like a shocking lack of empathy on my part, but I'm getting to the point. I'm not totally there yet, but I'm starting to have these thoughts like, if you're so obsessed with this idea that you're going to take up arms against the government because you don't believe in the federal government and you think the government's out to get you and you think they're going to come and take away your liberties and your rights, then maybe it's time that you take a stand and go ahead and take on the military, because maybe we need to cull the herd a little bit.
Right. Yeah.
And really, if you're going to be this macho guy, like, I've got these rifles to stand up to the government, like, well, then go ahead. Let's see how that works out, because I believe in controlling the government through representational democracy,
right,
and through voting and through large-scale, social protest. If we were to shut Washington down, I'm not going to do it with a rifle. No. I'm going to do it by encouraging everyone to flood the streets and literally shut the government down. If it comes to that,
hey, they stopped the war in Vietnam.
That you can fight our government with rifles is insane.
It's delusional. It's insanity, and they're being played by this. Like I said, they're being played by this massive industry that's selling. How much are these AR-15s? They got to be like $1,000 or something. I mean, they're like. They're not for the poor. First of all, that's the other thing. They're for folks that have money, that have disposable income, I assume. And it's also like we have this amazing.
There's a lot of. It's like why do you own a hammer? There's a million different reasons to own a hammer. It's just like whatever. It's like, but a hammer's not going to kill 56 people at once.
Right.
Well,
and the other thing that comes to mind, is we have all this technology. We have ways of tracking our purchases and marketing things to us in a way that is smart. And, you can set up, with Amazon, you can do all kinds of things that make your life kind of easier. And some of it's giving away a little bit of freedom. But why can't, for instance, this guy in Vegas, he goes around and buys all these guns. He amasses this arsenal. How's that not all connected to create a red flag? Why aren't these gun shops?
You buy 17 rifles in 30 days. Shouldn't that be a little red flag? Like, hey, this guy bought 17 rifles this month, and he's not a gun dealer.
And you know what? And if you don't want the government to do it, then the NRA, which is the National Rifle Association, they should be self-policing their members. They should. When you buy a gun, you should have to show your NRA card. You swipe it. It searches your history of gun purchases and ammo. Well, listen. That cuts down the argument that the government is coming to take your guns away. Be responsible users of these stupid things.
Yeah, but. The thing, of course. But if you start applying logic to this scenario, you quickly, you realize how insane the whole thing is. Because, for instance, this no-fly list, letting people who are on the terrorist no-fly list be able to buy M16s. Like, what are we talking about? I mean, if you start applying logic, the whole thing is a house of cards.
Yeah.
I just heard that they're proposing this law that is a federal law that says if you bought a gun, say in Nevada, and you're covered under the laws of Nevada for that gun. So that means if you legally own it, you can take it to California, regardless of California's gun laws,
right,
and operate under the laws where you bought the gun. Like,
it's a 4-hour drive.
People who are so into like states' rights and self-autonomous regions, like, how can you be behind that law?
Right. California has established a sanity. They've established a by popular vote, they've established the way we want to live. We want to live without the ability to walk around with guns on our holsters and all these lax regulations. That's the world we want to live in. So now these people from Nevada can just stroll in, 4-hour drive on the what is it, the 8? What is it, the 8? What is the fucking highway, John?
It's the 10.
The 10, thank you. The 15. Take the 15 down. Cut over.
There's a number of roads that connect California and Nevada, Tim. That's not the point.
I know it's not the point. Listen, I got to get back to these wonderful kids out there who want to...